I'm located in West Michigan. I live in Grand Rapids, but spend a lot of time in like Allegan County area. Been with Arsenal for about a year now. I actually got my foot in the door with the hunting industry. I started as an intern with Hoyt's Bow Hunting Whitetails with Bill Winke out in Iowa in 2023. Came back home, graduated college, and then was lucky enough to get an opportunity with Arsenal. Um, kind of got my foot in the door there, started running some social media, just kind of basic operations, and then it's expanded to running the trade show circuit and handling a lot of the direct to consumer sales, the direct to consumer contact, a lot of the marketing things, stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in the hunting world right now.
So what's your name?
Name is Alex Rewa. Yep. Yeah, I get a lot of Rewa or Ruwa, but yeah, Rewa.
Yeah, I got an odd last name too, so I feel you there. But yeah, so Arsenal is one of the companies that was gracious enough to partner with the podcast. And you kind of were telling me just a little bit about how you're really trying to get Arsenal in the hands of, working class, everyday guys, get people using it, get some feedback. And I think the really good companies that continue to grow are really about that and are good about taking feedback and changing things for the better and how the guys using it want it to be changed. Why don't we get into Arsenal a little bit? They're not a huge company. There's only a few guys kind of running everything. I would think are pretty hands on with the product, using it, testing it, things like that. Why don't you kind of go through the product line a little bit, maybe what you use and some feedback that you've gotten on the products?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, we're a small team. Obviously the company hasn't been around that long. We're at right about 3 years now, 2.5 years. But like you said, we've got a small team, but we're very product focused. Like one of the big goals and something that I'm really proud to be working for the company on is the fact that, you know, they're not worried about just pumping out products to get products in the line. We want to make the best gear possible. And that's honestly how I got started with the company. A little backstory, I actually reached out to Scott, the owner, coming out of college because my YouTube channel, we're from Michigan, Arsenal's from Michigan. I really liked the looks of their Razor Mag 2.0 platform. It was lightweight, but it was large. I was coming from the tree stand world where I wanted a large size platform that I could hunt off of with my saddle, but I wanted it to be lightweight. I didn't want it to be 5, 6 pounds like a lot of them were. So I gravitated towards the product originally. And since getting involved, I mean, we like to say, a lot of the ideas for the products come from when we're sitting in the tree. We're using stuff and we're seeing stuff we don't like, or we'd like this to be a little bit better. Or products we've used in the past just weren't quite meeting the needs or the goals of what we were looking for in the woods. So I mean, I'm fortunate to work for a hunting company, but I'm a deer hunter first. I mean, that'll always be my number one passion. So I'm the end user. We're the end users of the products that we're developing and putting out there. So to be able to kind of stand behind the whole line, I mean, that's a really big thing for me. I don't want to be with a company that I don't feel 100% about when I'm at all these trade shows. Like I feel good that this is a product that anybody that's looking at it can help them be a better hunter. And obviously it's not necessarily going to help you execute that shot, right? But
Yeah.
it's gonna. The worst part about hunting and setups, and especially mobile hunting, is if your gear slows you down and makes the process difficult and you lose kind of that fun and joy doing it, then you're not either doing the right thing or you're not using the right gear. So being able to have gear that we feel that doesn't inhibit you from doing what you want to do, that's a big thing. I mean, I don't know exactly, 35, 40 sits in this year, and I would say probably 30 of them were from hanging hunts in the saddle or
Mhm.
hanging in preset spots. So, we're putting, not only are we putting the products out there, but we're spending a lot of time, and already kind of have the wheels turning for 2026 as far as some of the products that we can make improvement on as well.
And I've noticed that not just you, but Scott, he's one of the engineers or the engineer kind of behind the design. Or
Yeah, he does a ton of it. We've got another guy that is part of the engineer team as well. So those two kind of, put their heads together and do a lot of the design work and the prototyping and everything like that. I mean, that stuff's way above my pay grade and my level. But I can tell you, if I spend a hunt and I don't like something, I'll go back to them and tell them like this is an issue or we got to try to improve this. But those guys are hunters too. I mean, they
Yeah.
generally come up with the same conclusions that I do with the gear. But yeah, those two are kind of the brains behind the operation there.
You don't see a lot of companies, they get to a point where they're so big and they have to hire more help. And you guys being small, your engineers and the guys designing the equipment are hunters too. Like they're out there using it and firsthand, you're at trade shows, you're hearing from consumers what they'd like to see and feedback that way. And I'm sure you're giving that back to them. What's kind of the flow of information, how feedback gets taken, and kind of the process behind changing things?
Yeah, it's kind of like you said. I mean, generally during the spring show circuit, we're pretty much set on what we're going to be offering for the next year, but we do like to get that initial feedback. And if we have to make any last minute rolling changes, before products start distributing middle of the summer is generally the timeline, we're able to do that. We kind of like to talk about that, on all these shows, whether it's me or any of the other team members that are at the booth, but we're kind of the eyes and the ears of, you're getting the firsthand experience of what customers are thinking when they're using the products for the first time, when they're first seeing it. Being a new company, a lot of the people that we run into at these shows, this is the first time they're putting their hands on the product. So you kind of get that initial first reaction. And I mean, obviously everything's been extremely positive, which is cool too. When we first released the Cloud RLX saddle last year, which was the first saddle on the market with integrated back support. We released that at the Mobile Hunter Expo in Dalton, Georgia. And the feedback, and we kind of wish we had a GoPro on the trees to just kind of get the reaction of people's faces when they first tried that back support. That's a huge part of us kind of understanding and knowing how people are reacting to the product. But I mean, that carries over to the fall too. We have a ton of communication with our customers. I mean, we've got a Facebook group that's, solely anybody that's using Arsenal gear can join it. But we get a lot of feedback on there. People aren't always, even though a lot of these people are using all Arsenal gear, they're not always completely positive on everything. So we like to take that feedback and try to roll with it as best as we can. So whether it's coming in person in these shows or some of the forums or everything we're seeing, we try to take account of everything and keep putting that into the new products to roll forward.
I would say the things that I've heard are when people first see Arsenal gear, whether that's in pictures or they see it firsthand, is they just say how sleek and how it catches your eye. I would say your stuff is some of the best looking stuff out there. Not that that really matters in the grand scheme of things, but from a marketing perspective and advertising, it seems like that's going to make them come check it out at least. And then when they actually try it, that sells them even more because I can say firsthand it's top notch gear. I don't think anybody makes the quality of gear and how thought out it is really out there. So would you say that's probably what you're seeing too is, and was that kind of a goal when creating
Yeah,
product is to make it catch your eye first?
absolutely. I mean, all of that goes into effect and is in our minds when whether displaying it at the shows or displaying it in the stores or obviously the product themselves. Like, we want to, you know, we're building these products to be top notch, high end. We want them to be the best of the best. And there's no part of that process that we want to be lacking in that. We want the high end packaging to look good, to catch your eye, to kind of really emulate what the brand is. It's all branding and it's the whole lifestyle of the high end mobile hunter is kind of what we're trying to achieve. And that's everywhere from the high end products, obviously how they perform in the woods, to how the products look, to how they are delivered at your door. We want that experience of the best of the best to be the best of the best the whole process. So that's something we really focus on and try to give everything a good feel and make sure that is best you can for the user. Because I mean, the consumer, the hunter, is spending a lot of money on these products. It's kind of that buy once, cry once thing, right? But people are upgrading all the time. And, if you're spending top dollar on a high end product, you want it to look and feel high end. So that's something we've really prioritized.
Right. And you kind of mentioned it a little bit. Go into the price structure and things because other than the gear looking really, really nice, it also not the cheapest gear out there. I think that's one thing people notice. It looks really good, and then they look at the pricing and say, "Yeah, okay, it's high end gear based on the price too." So go into kind of the price structure as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't want to, we don't try to gouge the customer. That's not the goal at all. It's, if anything, kind of from a business aspect, we could probably be making more on these, if we wanted to. But basically, we price everything as, how we put a lot of work into our products, like our platforms. It takes a ton of money, machining, and time to be able to, create that product that we have. So at some point you just have to, that's where the price comes in, because it takes that much to make the product. But like I said, and with the price, we're making high end products that are going to last you as well. It's not like you're going to have to change something year after year. The hope would be, you buy a platform, unless you want to upgrade, there's no reason you can't run that platform for the next 5, 6, 7 years, until technology changes drastically. It's just like a bow. Every year there's something new coming out, and the high end stuff is the top dollar, and you can upgrade. I mean, there's every year there's going to be a new feature, there's going to be something that sets it apart from the last one, but there's no reason why that last one wouldn't work the same. So we've tried to kind of create different levels of, our high end stuff, but we do offer some stuff that's, a little bit more reasonable on the price end. Like this year we had our air saddle come out at only 179, our lightweight kind of ultralight warm weather deep into public land, really packable saddle, at a price point that a lot of people could easily get into, where we've had a lot of guys starting out that just wanted to start with that, get into it a little bit cheaper, before maybe jumping up into that upper tier of the nicer, more comfortable saddles, like the ones that are built for the all day comfort and things like that.
And I will say, I ran the air this year, and I'm kind of just a minimalist person, just because hunting the hills and stuff. I would rather take something a little bit lighter weight like it is. I mean, you can ball that thing up and shove it in your pocket. Like, it's
Mhm.
tiny. And I was impressed by the amount of adjustability it had. A lot of other saddles you see where it's pretty much just a bridge, a waist belt, and then leg straps, whereas this one, or the air I'm referring to, has probably 8 to 10 different adjustment points. You can attach the leg straps in different loops. Like, there's so much adjustability that I don't see how anybody, no matter what, if they're in the advertised weight limit of the saddle, couldn't find comfort in all day. Like, I sat in it for a majority of the day multiple times this year and had no complaints.
A lot of times your single panel saddles don't have any adjustability. I mean, they're kind of more burlappy. They cut into you a little more. You just can't do a whole lot with them. So with the air, we're trying to, with our new bridge system, the Infinity bridge system this year, we wanted to give it adjustment while maintaining that minimalistic design, so that's kind of where we came up with the air, and we're super pumped for, like you said, with how it worked out. I mean, we have a lot of guys that are still hunting in the rut right now, a lot of our team members that are still using the air, when it
Mm.
would seem to make more sense when it's colder, your all day sits, to use the Infinity. A lot of people still gravitate towards that air because it's so packable. So we were pumped with how that came out.
Yep. I've been running the air and then use the back band also, to where, or the knee band, it kind of
Mhm.
multi-purpose. I'm kind of fidgety too. I like to try different things just to make, saddle hunting by nature is not the most comfortable thing if you've done it with cheaper gear, and you just learn some different tips and tricks to make it more comfortable. And I just feel like having the packability and the lightweightness, if I don't want to wear the saddle in, or if I do want to put it in the pack in a pocket, and then just have that back band. You can wear it as a back band for all day sits. You could put it around your tree on your knees, and you can kind of switch it up, and it takes 2 seconds to unclip it and change that. And I feel like that has been a really good system for me, at least, which it's nice that there's that option.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things we preach is, everybody's not going to be the same in the saddle. Even with the adjustabilities, some people are going to like things that others don't, so we want to try to have a wide range of options. And like you said, accessories like that slinger, that can make or break those long hunts. I honestly use a slinger more myself because I'm known to get in stupid early, no matter what, especially early season. But even in the rut, a lot of the places I hunt here in Michigan are extremely pressured. So like
Mm.
on opening day of gun season, I was in over an hour before daylight because I'm letting the neighbors push stuff to me, And when I'm sitting there in an hour before light, I love to put that slinger on and just sit there and be a little more comfortable, especially when you're sitting in the dark and not looking at anything. So just trying to have, different options, different features, different accessories that people can use that are going to fit their hunting style.
And like you said, I mean, the air is a very reasonably priced saddle compared to anything else on the market. And one thing I wanted to mention is, it seems though, you guys kind of jumped in the industry at a higher price point, but haven't really gone up from there, which I kind of thought was important to mention. It's not like, I think it just comes from a lot of people not recognizing the brand and the name being brand new and being at that higher echelon. They kind of don't trust it at first because a lot of people don't, there's no feedback on it at that point. But you've kind of stayed, your price structure stayed the same over the last probably 3 to 4 years, where other companies have, with for whatever reason, their prices have gone up and met kind of where you're at, and you guys have kind of stayed the same. You popped in the industry with high quality gear, priced accordingly, and it seems like you kind of try to keep that where it is.
Well, one thing that's important to mention is our owner, he actually founded Hawk Tree Stands back in the day. So like, yes, we were a new company coming into the industry or our category when we released, but by no means was the team behind it new to the industry, you know. So it's not, I don't even know the best word for it, but they knew the product was going to be good. You know, it wasn't like we were brand new trying to test this out. It was just, it's more at that point a branding of getting it in front of people, letting people try out the gear. You know, the platforms are really what kind of allowed us to take off, you know, the Razor series and especially the Razor Mag 2.0. You know, once people put that in their hands, even though it's a brand new, it's, you know, it's hard to deny the quality of it. So yes, we were new, but we also knew what the product we had was, and we're very familiar with the industry. And you know, that wasn't necessarily something, like I said, we're not trying to, our goal isn't to get as much money out of every product as possible. You know, we're just trying to get products out there that we believe in, but that are priced accordingly to the quality.
I ran the Mag 2.0 this year and bites like a dog. Like you toe cam. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how you say to cam it in, but I've always been like a toe cam person, just like a tree stand. And when you do that, I any kind of bark, any kind of tree, any kind of angle, and it was like a rock. I was super impressed with how it bit. And it being a bigger platform, I'm a guy that just likes a bigger platform, and it not being that, it's not heavy, and it's the biggest one you offer. And I mean, it allows you to pretty much stand on it, turn around. It makes someone that's like newer to saddle hunting or just a little bit uncomfortable in that situation feel way more comfortable because they have a little bit more to stand on. And I'm just that kind of person. I'll take comfort all day over even if it was another pound or so. I'm a big
Oh.
platform kind of person, but why don't you touch on the different platforms you guys offer first? And we'll start with that since we kind of already talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm a big platform guy myself. Like I said, that's how I kind of originally got, you know, drawn to the company. But yeah, right now we have three different options. Our two new ones for this year are the Razor Elite and the Razor Sub 2. The Elite is kind of our next generation in the large size platform. It's a touch smaller on paper than what the Razor Mag is, but it's actually deeper away from the tree. So you don't get as much width, but you get more room if you're going to try to turn around and make that behind you shot. Or a lot of times it's easier to go kind of weak side there with the deeper platform. And we also added a tapered comfort edge to the front of that. We had a lot of requests, and that's one of the things, again, I'm trying to build off of the feedback that we get. We had a lot of requests on wanting some sort of a tapered front edge. And with the profile that we try to hit with our platforms, we're trying to make them as thin as possible, make them fold down flat within themselves. That's obviously hard to do. You can't throw a big 4-inch angled edge on the front of it and still make it packable like that. So we added those tapered edges to give you a little bit nicer of a foothold this year. Same features around the Sub 2. It's just a smaller version. So it's a sub 2 pound platform. That's perfect for those guys that are the ultimate minimalists. You can fit that in any backpack that you want. I've actually killed 2 deer off of the Sub 2 this year, being a large platform guy. One of them was a weak side shot too, so I was able to get turned and everything on that Sub 2. So that's an awesome option. And you know, that was actually almost more popular than the Elite was this summer at our shows, just because it was so small and so packable.
Mm-hmm.
People really gravitated towards that. And then, like you mentioned, we still have the Razor Mag 2.0 available. We are going to be phasing that out here at the end of the year, going into 2026, and have some new stuff coming. But right now, I mean, that's been kind of like you said, people that like the bigger platform. It's also extremely solid. It's by far the most solid option we have in the tree. So a lot of either bigger guys or hunters that are new to saddle hunting, they kind of prefer that platform just because it gave them a little more peace of mind, a little more of that rock solid kind of concrete feel under your feet when you're in the tree.
Yeah. Touch on the one thing you didn't mention is the attachment method. If people haven't seen it, what's different about like your platforms versus like a cam strap that would normally come with the platform?
Yeah, so we've got a built-in rope attachment cleat. Basically, it's just a figure eight. It's like a boat cleat or something like that. It's a figure eight rope through the cleat, and then our platform's the top standoff rotates as well as the normal platform base. So you can actually cam those both in at the same time. What you get from that is you get number one, it's quick and quiet. I mean, I've used cam buckles, your standard cam buckle strap. I can't stand them. Having to slide that buckle across the strap, try to guess how big your tree's going to be. With that rope, you can literally it takes longer to reach your arms around and grab the rope and pull it to the other side of the tree than it does to actually put the rope in the rope lock cleat. We do run into people that have some issues with it, starting out, and it can look a little bit complicated. Generally, that is just simply due to not really understanding the steps or how to properly attach the rope. Once you kind of get it down, and we've posted a bunch of YouTube videos on that this summer and this fall, trying to help guys out. Once you get that down, I mean, it's possible to get that rope so tight that you can't even cam the platform over. I mean,
Yeah.
it does a really good job. And when you combine that with the teeth, I mean, it's one of those things where we're trying to make it quiet, quick, efficient. You're not having to deal with buckles in the tree, but it grabs really well. Now, we do have an option for anybody that doesn't like the rope or just can't figure it out. We do have a daisy chain cam buckle strap on our website. So basically what that is we threw a cam buckle on a daisy chain rope. So instead of having to slide that cam buckle along the strap like I was mentioning, you just find the closest daisy chain and then cinch the cam buckle down an extra couple inches. So that is an option. Whether it's, I mean, you can use that for tree stand hunting and climbing sticks too, but for a lot of people using our platform that might not like that rope, we do have a different option if you want to go that route.
Cool. So that was platforms. How about you talk about saddles and what you offer there? We touched on a couple different ones. We kind of talked about the Air already, but I think you guys are more known for maybe your Infinity series. So maybe touch on those a little bit.
Yeah, so we released the Cloud RLX, kind of like I mentioned earlier last year. We had the integrated back support. We actually won an award at the Mobile Hunter Expos for it being the best new product. It was just a super comfortable saddle. And we still were offering that this fall. And we had that at a little bit more of a price point. But main reason is we upgraded a couple things that we had a lot of requests for. And the biggest one was people didn't love the webbing bridge that we had on the RLX. So this year we went to an Amsteel bridge, but it's completely adjustable. So you have 6 different points of micro adjustment on that bridge. That really allows you to kind of micro adjust, fine tune how that saddle fits on you, whether you're putting more clothes on, you're sitting in a different position, you sit there for 3 hours and your legs are getting a little tired, you can literally just at your fingertips slide that knot down, get rid of some of that pressure. It really changes the game as far as adjustability in the saddle. And with that, you still have the integrated back support, and we have built-in zipper pockets too. So the whole idea is to kind of streamline the whole setup. You don't have dump pouches hanging off. You've got everything right on your person. Plus, you can adjust it at your fingertips without having to stand up, adjust, sit back down, see how it feels, that type of thing. So myself, I put a couple hunts in with the Air, but the Infinity just fits me really well. Almost all of my hunts have been in that saddle. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. I mean, it's extremely comfortable. And that's been the one that's kind of, putting us on the map as far as the saddle comfort. Our goal when we released that Infinity was to create the most comfortable saddle that we felt we could. And that's, combining the integrated back support with the different micro adjustments.
Yeah. I will say that the ease of adjustability with the knots and the tenders that are on the saddles. Some of the cheaper saddles do have a semi adjustability too, but I was impressed with like how easy, even with pressure on the ropes, how easy it was to kind of adjust. I don't know whether that comes from quality of materials or just the engineering behind where the knots are, but I will say that the adjustability isn't something that doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. It's pretty
Mhm.
simple, and it was nice to kind of see.
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, it's a lot of it is the engineering, and I got to give him props. We actually have an arborist on our team, so he lives his life in the trees, with ropes and knots and all that good stuff. So he's been a huge help on trying to determine how these knots and everything are kind of set up in order to adjust this, make everything adjust under load, which that's the big thing is you want to be able to do it with one hand under load. You don't want to have to stand up, adjust, and sit back down. So a combination of kind of his knowledge and obviously the engineering team behind everything and how they can kind of throw their ideas together and R&D everything and find a product and a solution for these problems. It came together really well.
What's the for listeners that maybe haven't checked you guys out? What's the price point before we move too far ahead on the platforms and then the different saddles?
Yeah, so platforms are $299 for the Razor Mag, and then the Sub 2 is $329. Elite is $349. That's our online prices. We do have dealers too. They're not all going to list them at the exact same price, but that's kind of your ballpark. Saddle wise, the Infinity was $299, Air $179, and then we had the RLX at $199 this year. Some of that might be changing going into 2026. I mean, we're kind of getting to the point now where a lot of new products are going to be releasing here, whether it's later this fall or in the spring at ATA and the shows next year. So some stuff might be changing a little bit, but in general, that's kind of where we had everything set for this fall.
Cool. On to the sticks. You guys have had your X20s now for a couple of years, and I feel like when they first came out, they kind of took the industry by storm, whether that was how well they worked, but just how they looked and how they operated. I guess kind of touch on the X20s.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of falls in line with everything else. I mean, climbing sticks traditionally are the hardest thing to pack. They're the hardest thing to get up the tree. Usually, if you have a small little compact packable stick, it might take you 6 of them to get up to your desired hunting height. Whereas you have a full length, 18, 20-inch stick, it's hard to pack. They hang out outside your pack, whether it's up and down or side to side. So the idea behind the icons having them be telescopic is you can pack them small like they're a compact stick, but you don't sacrifice that height when you get to the tree. You still might only need your 3 sticks to get up 16, 18 feet, and then you can add ears from there. And yeah, that was the first stick of its kind on the market. So I mean, there was definitely some skeptics, and there still are. But I mean, I can tell you, I still am using the same set of sticks that I started with the company for my hanging hunts. I beat the crap out of them, killed a couple deer using them, rain, snow, everything like that, and they're just beasts. So, to me, the sticks are what makes it'll make or break your whole setup. If you have sticks that are hard to work with, they're hard to put up as you're climbing, it'll ruin your whole setup. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, like if your gear is slowing you down or making you annoyed with your hunt, then you're doing something wrong. And I've certainly hunted with climbing sticks in the past that I hated my life trying to put those climbing sticks on the tree, as I'm sure we all have. So again, we have a rope connection on them, so you're not dealing with cam buckles. It's super fast, super quiet. They bite the tree really well, and they're easy to work with. So to me, the climbing sticks are what make the setup really work as a whole. And I've been super thrilled. I personally have never, I've never had bottom kick out any of the sticks. We don't get any reviews, like negative reviews on bottom kick out. I mean, they bite really well, so they're safe. They're easy to work with. It's just all in all a really good stick that you can easily pack on your pack as well.
Yeah, it seems like most climbing sticks that are out there, it's give and take. Whether you want boot room, that they have a really good standoff, but they're heavy or they don't pack well. And I think the X20s are probably the first stick that I've actually used or seen that doesn't really compromise too much one way or the other. Like it's got enough brute room. It's not probably the most out there, but it's definitely not the least. There's good grip on the steps. It's machined to have grip on the top of the steps, which is nice. The material that's on the outside tube for noise dampening, the rope attachment being quiet, no cam buckle, lightweight, the attachment method, and then just like little details like, the telescoping feature, being able to pack it down. I think it's a 20-inch step that goes down to, I don't know, 13 or 14 inches.
Yep.
13 inches. So, you're saving yourself 7 inches per stick. It's not hanging out of your pack, way more packable. There's little magnets to where you hook them together to you get them close and they kind of magnet together and hold them secure. And then I think one of my favorite parts about them is the reflective tape, like coming down the tree in the dark or going up. That's just like a little detail that some other sticks have that you can add on to it, but they already come with it. It's like those little details that people don't think about that all together make it like a really good bang for your buck stick.
Well, it all kind of ties back to the high end, that price point. You know, if someone's buying a $400 pack of three climbing sticks, the last thing we want them to do is have to then go home and DIY them up to make them usable, right? So yeah, we've got the built-in reflectors. It makes them safe climbing down. I mean, there's no guesswork on where to put your boot. We, like you said, we've got the cork dampener on there, so they're quiet. You don't have to stealth strip them. So yeah, it all just kind of works together. They pack together nice, and like you said, there's lighter options out there, but what you're getting with these is they're still packable, but you're getting that full length stick. They're quiet, they're easy to attach. Like you said, it's kind of the best of both worlds as far as having enough room to put your boot, having them packable, but still being able to get away with only needing three sticks and an aider to get up to where you want to be without having to DIY them up to make them quiet.
Yeah, and what's the price point on per stick?
So it's $3.99 for a three pack, or we sell the singles for $139 on our website. So it's a little cheaper if you go with the pack, but yeah, that's the ballpark there.
And then aiders. You guys offer aiders?
Yep. So we, again, trying to find solutions to problems. We've got our Max Step Aider series. We've got a single and a double step option. They're an actual plastic step instead of having to try to find a rope with your boot, that's swinging around. Just put your foot right on that platform. It digs right into the tree. It's got teeth. So it's almost a little bit more like climbing a step ladder versus, a normal rope aider. Again, those have reflectors on them. So when you're coming down the tree, you basically have a runway on your reflectors going down your steps, on your icons, all the way down to those obvious places to put your foot with your boot on the aider itself. They're packable. They fold right up flat to the bottom of your stick. You can use them on any double step climbing stick. And those come in. We've got a single packs, or the single aider is $39, and then the double aider is $59. They're 18-inch steps.
I think for me, from what I've seen, other than the sticks, I think that's the one product that you have that people are most skeptical about. They look at the aider and they're like, this is different than anything else offered. So they're like, don't want to try it or don't want to give it credit. And then once they try it, I've never seen someone say they hate them. I feel like everybody's sold as soon as they use them just because of the ease of use and just not having to think.
Well, that's the product that's drawn more people to our booth at shows than anything. I mean, we'll set those things up on the tree facing the aisle so people can just come by and try them. And they put their foot on there, and they instantly feel that stability with the teeth digging into the tree, coming from a world where they're having their rope aider swinging around below their stick. I mean, that's a game changer, and it's safe. You feel more confident climbing. So we have a lot of people that, there's a lot of people in the saddle industry, as there are in every industry, that are very product specific. They're not going to look or sniff at anything else that's not the brand they want to use. But our aiders kind of break that rule for a lot of those people, because it's hard to deny. I'm not going to say that, a rope aider is lighter. It's not going to take up as much room on the bottom of your stick. That's obvious. I mean, I can't argue with that. But the safety, the comfort of climbing with these aiders, I mean, it's a different world.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that before you did. I think in the hunting industry, people get very brand specific. They like supporting one brand and not anybody else. But I've seen so many people running, name the brand, but they have Arsenal aiders because that just speaks for itself right there. But yeah, they're definitely something to keep an eye out for and to use, because people that are skeptical and wanting to try aiders, I definitely would try those because they're about as easy to use and about as foolproof as you can get. All right, last thing I think in the lineup is probably the packs. I think this last year, those have been the big hitter as far as good feedback from at least what I've seen.
Yeah, the packs were what I was the most excited about going into this year with all our new products. Got 5 different options of packs. I can just kind of run through the list quick, but we've got 2 different sizes of the Agile pack. Our smallest Agile is going to be your most minimalist pack, extremely lightweight, but it does have a kangaroo pouch on the front, so you can kind of pack out, shove coat, shove climbing sticks, saddles, platforms, whatever you want in that pouch, whether it's ours or someone else's gear. Just a very lightweight, minimalistic pack. That's probably been our most popular. It's also at a very good price point, so it's $139, and then the large version, which adds a little bit of length to it, is $9. So both those options. I mean, if you're a minimalist looking for a low profile backpack, that's the route most people have gone. Moving up in the line, just kind of storage capacity from there would be our Flex pack. Now, our Flex is a hybrid fanny. This is the one that kind of looks a little bit different to a lot of people. You've got more of a rounded compartment, a little bit better for gear storage. It's a similar like cubic inches volume wise, but it's a little bit deeper. So it sits a little deeper off the tree, but it's easier to pack things. Like an example that I have is if you're trying to pack camera gear that's more of a square shape. A lot of guys using mirrorless cameras or lenses, it's easy to pack in that pack because there's a large compartment, but it's still kind of a smaller profile pack. It's got a nice high shoulder strap set up, and we've also got a removable pouch on the top there. So that kind of gives people a little bit different option as far as how you like to pack into your gear. That's a really good pack if someone's packing in a mobile tree stand. Just works really well for that. That one's listed, I believe we have it at 129. That was our price point for this one, so that was our cheapest one on the line. Moving up, we have our excursion pack, which is like your tool bucket style pack. This pack really excels when you're actually in the tree. So it's got a built-in workstation tray that can clip in. It's a great place to kind of put your grunt call, your rangefinder, your phone, your little Debbie's, something that you want easy to access kind of in the top of that pack. But it's a square, so it's easy. You can access it from the front instead of going top down. Great camera gear pack, again, going to that. Just kind of really good for front access, kind of, that type of thing. It's not really designed if you're hauling in a ton of gear deep into public land. It doesn't have some of the features like an outside pocket that some of the others do as far as that, but just strictly for a workstation in the tree. If you've got shorter walks, not as much gear, it works awesome. And then going forward from there, we have our adventure pack, which is our biggest pack in the line. This is the ultimate pack if you're bringing a bunch of gear to the woods. You've got a gusseted pouch in the front that expands, so you can run climbing sticks, platform. I usually run my platform or my camera arm and camera base in that stuff that I don't really want to be inside the pack. But I still want contained and I don't want to strap to the outside. That's usually what I run there. And then you've got two very large pockets as well. Again, if you're all day, if you're bringing a bunch of food, if you're packing way in, if you're sitting all day on that opening day of gun season and you're, bringing a bunch of sandwiches and stuff or extra clothing and coats, that's the pack that you're gonna want to go with. That one's at 199, so that's our most expensive pack. But the cool thing with all our packs is the material is similar to what you'd find on like brush pants. So it's lightweight, it's quiet, but it's also not going to rip when you're going through briars. So they're all extremely lightweight, they're durable, easy to work with, and they come in at pretty good price points too. You can find similar packs that are going to be $300-400 versus ours that are top out at 200. And we kind of got a range of packs that's going to be perfect for every hunter, no matter the situation or hunting style.
Yeah. I think that my favorite features that are on all of them, which is kind of cool, is the kangaroo pouches. Pretty much all of them have a kangaroo pouch that's expandable, and then a bunch of molly all over it where you can attach different little molly pouches or hang stuff from on carabiners, stuff like that, which they're very modular. You can kind of customize them how you want, which is super nice. And like you said, there's different sizes and different styles for just about anybody and whatever your style is. And they're cheap enough of a bag where honestly having two different ones, like you're a bigger one for later season when you're packing in clothes, and then maybe like the flex or that smaller agile for early season stuff. I know I ran the flex this year because it was so customizable, and I never really got far enough into the season now to have to pack a lot of clothes in. So that's the only thing I could see maybe being an issue with that pack. But it definitely, I feel like I could have figured it out if I needed to, for sure. Strapping it on the outside or whatever you have to do there.
Yeah. No, I've got a lot of buddies, and I mean in my place in the industry, I mean a lot of guys that film hunts, so I have a few that will run the excursion if they're filming somebody else where they can just put their platform on there and all their camera gear in there, and then when they're hunting by themselves, when they're self-filming, they'll run the adventure pack or the flex generally. I mean, I set my dad up, who doesn't bring a whole lot more than his binoculars, his rangefinder, and maybe a bottle of water to the tree. He's running the agile, that's perfect for him and his setup. So, it's not just all the packs are kind of optimized for mobile hunting, but they're by no means mobile hunting specific. I mean, you can run them for anything in any situation.
Yeah. The one thing I forgot about that's kind of a collab of yours is the one stick. I know that's kind of like a new venture and like something that not a lot of companies do both. They kind of either specialize in a one stick or platform sticks kind of thing. So you
Mhm.
don't have to get like super far in the weeds on it, but maybe just kind of go over it a little bit, some of the features, price point on that, and if people want to check that out where they can do that.
Yeah, so we're fortunate to have a really good relationship with Eastern Woods Outdoors and the guys over there, who obviously are a huge force in the one sticking game in the industry. So, we had the opportunity to kind of collaborate with them, put some of their insight on how they wanted the stick to be designed, size, things like that, and put our engineering and our capabilities into it. Basically, and for lack of a better word, putting one of our smaller original platforms on the top of that thing, it works really well, but it's extremely lightweight. So I don't personally one stick, so I can't speak to like the benefits, I guess, but I know that there was no item like I remember this specifically. So I was at an Indiana Expo show this year, and we had the one stick with us. I had a group of guys show up to check it out. They drove a couple hours to see it. They all already had it on order. I mean, they were all pumped about it. They wanted to see it in person. The next week, they drove all the way to Iowa to the Iowa Deer Classic to see the stick again, just to stand on and put their hands on it again. Same group of guys who had all ordered it. So there was a ton of hype for this thing. And compared to the other one sticks on the market, I mean it's like half the weight or something like that. I don't know the exact specifics. Like I said, I don't like you mentioned, we don't deal with it a ton. That was more kind of the genius of our engineering team, making that happen in collaboration with Eastern Woods. So, but it's been a really good product. And I mean, I have seen zero negative feedback on that thing. And I know, there's already some ideas of how to kind of move forward and, improve it even more going in the future. So, that should be a cool thing to follow along as well.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, you guys pretty much offer something for everybody, like we kind of already talked about. Um, is there anything for the future of Arsenal, like anything that you can hint at, or kind of any direction you guys are going that you want to, any information you kind of want to get out there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some new stuff coming for 2026, both in the same category and expanding into different categories that we're extremely excited about. So, that's about as much detail as I can give you on the specifics, but I can say the stuff that's coming is going to be really cool. I mean, we've had the opportunity to field test some of it. We've got a new saddle and sticks coming that we kind of hinted at. Our owner Scott shot a really nice buck down in Ohio that we posted a couple weeks ago using some of the new gear. So we've had some opportunities for some of the guys to get in the field and try the new stuff out, and we're pumped about it. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of like we mentioned, just keep trying to push the needle forward as far as the innovation in the mobile hunting game, and then in any other category that we branch into, we're gonna try to do the same thing.
So where can people check out like Arsenal online, social media, shows, stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's just huntarsenal.com. That's where you can order everything. I mean, we've got our full website, but we've also got links to all our videos on YouTube. We've got a really cool kind of tips and tricks section on there to allow people to go on there, check out each product, and see how we kind of recommend to use them. That might not necessarily, be in the wording of like an instruction manual. More kind of real life application. So definitely check those out. And then we're at Hunt Arsenal on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, we're posting 2 to 3 times a day. We do a really cool thing where we send out an email, a field report every week of kind of customer hunter submitted photos using our gear with their big bucks and their success stories. So that stuff's been really fun to follow along with as well.
Cool. Well, the Arsenal stuff's kind of behind us. Now I want to give you an opportunity to talk about Alex the Hunter. I mean, Arsenal's your day job working for them, but I mean, you have other ventures like everybody else. You get try to get out in the woods as much as you can. Be as brief or as long as you want to, talking about kind of how your seasons went. I know you knocked a couple deer down so far, so if you want to talk about that, you can. Anything else you want to mention about you, what you got going on? Floor is yours.
So last year, and actually coming out of the Bill Winke internship, I kind of had a goal as I really wanted to try to create a weekly Michigan deer hunting series. I know there's a couple, channels out there in Michigan that have done a really good job of kind of showcasing what hunting in Michigan is like, because it's not hunting in Iowa or Illinois or Kansas. I mean, it's the deer aren't as big. There's a lot more pressure. I mean, it's tough, but that's something, I obviously grown up in Michigan and the culture. I mean, it's something I'm super proud of. And I've kind of tried to make a goal of, I have the opportunity if I really wanted to go out of state, for weeks and whatever and hunt different public land or leases. But I really have the goal of trying to shoot big Michigan bucks and trying to produce this series. We call it 93 days, so it's the 93 days of the regular Michigan deer season. It's myself and a few buddies on the Unseasoned Outdoors YouTube channel, and we try to post a weekly episode of just our trials and tribulations of going through the season. Last year it took us till November 10th to put a buck on the ground. And that was mine last year. And this year, I think we've got 6 down on the channel so far. So that's been a lot of fun, myself, and we can get into my buck story a little bit, but I haven't
Yeah.
had the most ideal season in the world. But luckily I've got a good team around me that's had really good luck. I was able to, so I picked up a new permission property this year. I didn't pick it up until the middle of September, the first time, and our opening day is October 1st, so I had very little time to put boots on the ground and try to learn this place. Put up 2 cell cameras 4 days before season and just tried to saddle hunt it and figure it out. Well, early on in the process, I started getting pictures of a couple really nice bucks, one in particular that was obviously the oldest buck on the farm. In Michigan, getting a buck to 3 or 4 is impressive, especially in the
Yep.
area that I'm hunting. And I was pretty confident he was a 4-year-old deer. I hunted it hard. I mean, I tried to sneak out after work during the evenings in October, trying to hunt cautious, and when the conditions were right, slip in. And eventually I kind of settled on a spot that was after learning it, I put a non-cell camera in the spot right on the edge of a bedding area where I was pretty confident that I'd be able to sit and all day sit in the rut and have some action. I had no idea it was going to be as good and the deer were going to feel as comfortable as they were. I remember I checked the camera on October 12th and I had 3 different mature bucks, including the one that I was really wanting to shoot in daylight the first week of October in that spot. So I was kind of already behind the 8 ball on that, but just tried to go from there. And I actually went in there on a pouring rain day in the middle of October and set up a preset spot where I hung icons and an elite platform. Actually, the main platform I was hunting off of all year, I decided to throw in that tree and leave it because I knew that was going to be my main spot. And hunted it off and on a couple times and went in there on November 4th. I got a picture of a really nice buck in the morning. So I called the boss and told him I needed to cut out a little bit early and get in there to the bedding area. Hunted it that night and saw this big buck. Had him at like 100 yards. Actually was running a couple little bucks off. I tried calling at him. Just he was busy. I think there was a doe in the area. Just couldn't get him to come in here. But I was fired up just to have an encounter that good with this buck in Michigan. I mean, that was in my home county, home area, that was the biggest buck I'd ever had an encounter with. And then I went in there on the morning of November 6th, took the whole day off. It was Thursday. I figured I was going to hunt all day. I had Thursday and Friday off. I was going to put in 2 all-day sits and grind it out and see if I could get a shot at a nice buck. Lo and behold, at about 7:45, 45 minutes after daylight, this big buck that I was hunting come in, cruising behind me, and he actually cut in the woods behind me at like 30 yards. I got my camera adjusted, got turned, got drawn, and was kind of trying to pick an opening, knowing where he was going, that he wasn't going to come any closer, wasn't going to pop in any other lane. He eventually hit a lane that I had to duck down below a branch that was right in front of me, and I could see the deer standing there at like 30 yards. I'm like, okay, the deer's clean, I'm clean, and I got my camera on him. So I put the pin on him and let it fly, and it was tracking great. Of course, I didn't notice a little twig that was hanging over the lane about halfway to the deer. Arrow hit, kicked hard, and hit the buck back. Way back, probably straight intestines. I watched him walk off. Just obviously didn't feel good about the situation, but I didn't know exactly what we had. We had really good blood on the arrow. I mean, it was coated. It almost looked like liver blood. Ended up backing out, got way out of the area, and called a dog tracker. Went in there about 12 hours later, put 2 dogs on the track. They couldn't find any blood, or we couldn't find any blood. The dogs couldn't follow the track. Brought another dog tracker in, one that, is probably the most reputable in our area. Put that dog on the track and couldn't come up with anything. Eventually, we hit a bedding area right by the parking spot where we felt like he eventually had felt like the dog was probably on the deer's track. But about 10 minutes later, that dog picked up a scent and ended up taking us to a different dead buck just on the edge of that bedding area. And after that happened, we were like, okay, there's not going to be any way to pull this dog off of this scent that's already in there. You can't really tell a dog like, hey, this is the
Yeah.
wrong deer. when they're on scent like that. So long story short, cut our losses. I was feeling sick about it. No one really knew. We're like, this buck might be dead right now. This buck might not be dead for another 2 to 3 days. This buck might not die at all. I mean, we really didn't know. And I kind of went, I told myself like I wasn't going to go into that property and kill another buck out of the respect for the other the landowner, the other hunters on the property. I'm like, as far as I was concerned, my tag was punched, for that area. And you get 2 tags in Michigan, so I'd kind of just moved on to other adventures. Feeling sick about everything, and then I actually got a call on November 15th, which is our opening day of gun season. Got a call from another one of the hunters. It was actually, and a call and a text message. He sent me a picture and asked if this was the buck that I hit. And sure enough, it was the buck that I had hit, laying dead just on the edge of the bedding area, super close to where we had found the original dead buck. So obviously it was kind of like a shock, bittersweet to me. I mean, I drove an hour and a half back and went in there with my dad and recovered the buck. And the most unfortunate thing about the whole situation is we were with the dog probably within 30 yards of that buck. Um, it's hard to tell. My gut says that he was probably laying there dead at the time, and really what screwed us was the other dead buck laying there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I texted the dog tracker, let him know the whole situation, and he even admitted, he's like, I feel like this is on me for the dog not recovering that deer. So, it was a little bit of, well, I mean, not a little bit, a lot of unfortunate luck with, number one, not checking my lanes enough, hitting that limb. That's something we all go through as bow hunters. I mean, heat of the moment, just the shot didn't end up where we wanted to. And what we thought we had exhausted all the efforts with 3 different dogs, was just kind of a bad luck situation that we weren't able to recover that buck. So, or in the, right at the time and get the meat off that deer. So it's been one of those things where, I want to try to celebrate it because I hunted my butt off and shot a mature buck in Michigan, the oldest buck I've ever shot. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, the story didn't go how you wanted it to, right? We don't get to eat that deer and appreciate it like we should. So it's been a little bit of a bittersweet situation for me, but I mean, it's still something that I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, I don't even have him back. I dropped him off at a buddy's, and thankfully the deer really wasn't very rotted out, which is kind of leaving us to a little bit of question of, did he die right away? Did he die 3 days later on the edge of that bedding area? We don't really know. One of those situations where it was dumb luck that one of the landowners saw him laying where he was. I probably would have found him in the spring and probably would have felt even sicker about it then. So definitely a lot of experiences to be learned, but that's bow hunting for you, I guess.
Yeah,
That's a
props to
yeah,
that guy for even
yeah.
reaching out. I mean, I know a lot of people that probably would have just found the buck and done what they wanted and not even thought to contact anybody about it. So
Uh-huh.
it's pretty cool that they had the wherewithal to kind of figure out whose deer it was and reach out.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I mean, I've thanked him a million times, and I can't overstate, how much I appreciate both the landowner and him for that opportunity to recover the deer in some capacity. When we found this buck, I even went back and forth. I'm like, do I even post this on my social media? Like, I tagged the deer. I killed the thing. I've got video footage of it. I burned one of my tags, and do I post this deer? Don't I post this deer? And eventually I'm like, I feel like this is a story, a learning curve that, people can hopefully learn from, whether it's, pulling the trigger when you know 100% that, you're going to be able to get that arrow there, where you want it to be. And, you know, we exhausted our efforts with the dog, and what we thought was we couldn't do anything more, and that deer laid 30 yards away. I think a dog in every situation is the right situation, or the right thing to do if you don't have a good opportunity. But even then, you can get unlucky and have weird situations. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things that kind of everything that could have went wrong. But thankfully we had a really good person to let me know that they had found the deer, and was able to at least get some closure on the story and share it and kind of appreciate a deer like that in Michigan.
Yeah, I definitely can feel firsthand what you probably felt, as far as like, I killed my personal best this year and didn't really enjoy it maybe as much as I should have, just because like the last few years for me have been just rough as far as missing deer. I hit a really big one last year, hit a stick just kind of like you did. Clean missed that deer, but with
Uh-huh.
misses and just unfortunate things happen, just grinding for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, one day in 10 minutes, it's over. And then it's just like you take it for granted a little bit because it's just more of a relief that you finally got it done. It feels great in the moment, but if it also, it's very hard to explain the emotions because you killed your best year ever and you put so much time and effort into it, but it's a little bit like just a relief and not as much appreciation and joy as it would have been if, like in your situation, if you would have recovered that deer right away and got to
Right.
enjoy it in the moment.
Yeah, it was like, man, the drive from my deer camp to that property that day was the most nerve-wracking hour of my life because so many things, I'm just trying to get some closure, and it was like rode such the roller coaster on this buck was, okay, here's this buck coming in, to, okay, I made a bad shot, to, okay, now we're going to bring the dogs in, I feel confident again, to now the dogs can't find anything, to when we were tracking him and we saw that other deer thinking it was my buck, all of a sudden we were at the highest of highs, right back to 10 seconds later the lowest of lows. So it's one of those things. And I'm actually, after this call, going to pick him up. He got cleaned up, and we've gonna have the European mount of him. And I just feel like you said, I haven't even been able to slow down and kind of just appreciate that deer and what exactly
Yeah.
it was. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm already, the wheels are already spinning on how I can hunt this place differently, having a year under my belt.
Mm-hmm.
I've already got plans of where I think I'm going to be the first week of October next year, and how I can do things a little bit differently, set up a little bit differently to be a little bit more effective. But it's all part of the game we play.
Yeah. How big was the deer that you ended up finding? The other one.
He the one that I found on the track. He was
Yeah.
a 2-year-old 8 point. So I knew pretty quick once I walked up to him, we could just see the body laying there. And the dog tracker actually looked at me and he's like, "How much do you love my dog?" I'm like, "Holy crap. Here we
You're
got this
probably
buck." Yeah,
probably
I'm
pretty
like,
confused because you're like, well, I
I walk
definitely
up to
didn't.
him like, I don't think I screwed up.
Yeah.
It's a nice Michigan buck, but I'm like, I know the caliber of the deer that I shot at. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was a pretty big gut punch on that dog track for sure.
Sure.
But
Well, that's cool. I always like hearing stories of people. I mean, and like you said, you weren't sure whether you should share that or not, but I feel like that's just the right thing to do. Not
uh,
only for the deer, but just for everybody that follows you have a following, even if it's a small one. I mean, I feel like people really appreciate the honesty and everything that kind of went along with it. And like you owe it to that animal, and
yeah,
that's kind of why you
absolutely.
do it, to let everybody know that story. And I feel like people appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
But
No, and yeah, like I said, for our series this year, I mean, I haven't exactly delivered like I hoped, but both my other buddies that hunt with me have both tagged out so far this year. They actually shot bucks within 5 minutes apart on Sunday morning. That video went live about 2 hours ago. So, and my
yeah,
dad shot a buck at our home property behind our house on October 1st. His first buck that he shot back there since like 1993. So it's been an awesome year in the woods, even though it didn't exactly go as planned for me. I've been able to be a part of a lot and share a lot of really cool experiences with my buddies and my family. So it's been a good fall. Can't complain.
sure. Well, that's all I got for you. Sounds like you have a eventful night ahead of you, so I'm not going to keep you for any longer. I appreciate you kind of running down Arsenal and everything so people can kind of get an idea what you guys offer. And people should really go check them out. I've been impressed with all the gear I've ran this year. Very fortunate that you guys partner with the podcast. I do appreciate that. Where can people kind of follow along? You kind of plugged all Arsenal stuff. Where can people follow your YouTube channel, what you got going on? And then we can wrap it up from there.
Yeah, so the YouTube channel is called Unseasoned Outdoors, and then the deer series is 93 days, which that's pretty much all we post in the fall. So and then my personal Instagram is Alex Rewa Hunt. So pretty much anything that I'm doing, whether it's hunting, fishing, whatever, it ends up on there in some capacity. So that's what we got.
Well, it'll be linked below, all Arsenal stuff, all their pages, and then all your pages. I'll link them below so everybody can find you if they need to. If they have any questions about anything we talked about or anything, they can shoot those over to me or you, and we'll get it to the right person. So,
Absolutely.
Alex, I appreciate you sitting down.
Yeah, thanks for the time, man.
Yep.